Hey, what's your take, man, on the recent killings of Sterling, Castile, what is his name, Castile, Philando Castile, Sterling,
Minnesota.
and Jay Anderson from here in Milwaukee. Police killed him also up in Madison Park while he sleep in his car.
Indeed. And rest in peace to all them brothers, man. Peace to their transition. My take on it is that it's just a symptom. It's a symptom. Those deaths are the symptoms of a greater disease, which we all know as white supremacy. And in white supremacy, in the white supremacist structure, the black man's life really has zero to no value, and as a result of that, the consequences for killing a black man has zero to no there is no consequences when done by, especially when done by authority, but almost done by anyone, unless it's one of us killing one of us. Then you can kind of knock two birds with one stone. So both tragic. My condolences to their families, but it's just a symptom of white supremacy. And the interesting thing about, especially coming from the standpoint of the police killing the black man, the police grew out of something that was called the Slave Patrol. And what the Slave Patrol was started in, it was like in the 1600s, the mid to late 1600s, and what they were like 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, people that were coming of age, and these would be men that were armed, especially as they continued to expand west. They had to arm themselves because of the possible resistance from the Native Americans. But what their whole job was to do was to basically police and keep quarantine, keep in check the ex-slaves and some of the people that were still slaves. So that's where the police developed out of anyway. So that was always their duty to keep the slave in line and keep the black men in America, African Americans, quote unquote. Then that would be us, and that's what their job had always been to do, was to keep us in line. And that's where even where the driver's license come into play at. We had to have papers in order to travel the roads. In order to move around, we had to have permission from our slave owner to do so. So that's why when you pull your license out, your license has the state of your residence on it. So even if you are traveling to Minnesota, you got to pull out your ID to show the state that you're from, where you're traveling from, when you're traveling. The police pull you over. Right now, they'll ask you where you're coming from, where you're going. They might even get into asking you why you were there. And that all comes out of the Slave Patrol, just basically questioning the slaves, making sure they got their papers, making sure they're legitimate, making sure they can even be on the roads to be going from place to place. And sometimes some of the slaves either were stolen and taken and sold to other plantations. Some of those slaves were executed. So everybody that went on the open road to take these trips, probably for their masters, because they had permission, they had these notes. And if they had them things intact, all of those with the notes, especially those without the notes, that's why we don't have our license right now, and we get pulled over. Regardless of the quality of your driving, you can still end up being taken away, locked up, given a ticket or something because you don't have your proper papers. So those who did have their proper papers, though, all of them didn't get to make it to their destination and get whatever their task was that they were doing, get it accomplished and get back to where they had came from. So that's just like I said, it's a symptom of a greater disease, and the disease is white supremacy. And the whole purpose of white supremacy is for the white man as a whole, as a group, as an inheritance, to be in control and maintain a dominant position. And that's what gets executed, or that's what gets carried out when you see them execute a black man. So that's they've been doing this shit they've been doing this shit since we got here, though, man. It could be from the time, it could be from hangings to burnings to castrations to whatever you want to call it. So now it's just taking the form of bullets. Now it's just taking the form of it's all coming from lead. I don't know, do they make rope out of lead? I think rope is even made out of lead. But hey, we were hanging from trees, and now instead of hanging from trees, they chopping the trees down, making them into lead, and now they putting them in a stat way in the execution. So it's just it's business as usual in my perception of it, and what it means. But it's unfortunate, and with the two recent ones that happened over the last 48 hours, last 72 hours, with Alton Sterling, I believe his name is, the brother's name, and rest in peace to that brother, Alton Sterling, in
Philando Castile.
That was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then you had Philando
Castile.
Castile.
That was up in Minnesota.
That was up in Minnesota, which means that brother with a name like that, that somewhere in there that brother got some form of Latino or some form of Spanish inside of him as well. So them brothers need to recognize.
He was a school teacher too, man. You know, he worked at a school.
He worked at the school system too.
So he got a bunch of little white kids speaking up for him, saying how good of a person he was and how he, you know, chilled with them and molded with them.
Molded with them. So you know, he coming out like I said. So he and that's in Minnesota. And so them two brothers in the last 48 hours, both of them was tragic. I would lean more toward my mindset go towards conspiracy like all the time. So with Castile, I believe that was just an overreaction. But my main thing with that shit though, hold up. He was in the car with his child. So that also shows that there's no not only do black lives not matter, black children lives don't matter, because the image that will be engraved in that 4-year-old girl's head for the rest of her life, in her mind, that imprint, that's not going anywhere. And the officer didn't care about that. And he was also had his woman on the passenger side, but he was pulled over for a broken tail light. Now, there's no reason for a police officer's gun to even be drawn during a fucking broken tail light. If you get pulled over for a traffic ticket for speed, broken tail light, your fucking somebody stole the sticker off the back of your whip, there's no reason for the officer to approach your vehicle with his weapon already drawn. So if he's saying that they gave him two conflicting, and this tends to happen. It's happened to me before. I'm sure it happened to you. They had two conflicting orders at the same time. They tell this man they need his license and registration. So according to his lady says he informed them. They didn't ask, they didn't see it. He informed them that he had a license to carry as well, and that he did have his weapon. When he informed them of that, not knowing exactly what happened after that, but at some point in time he went to go retrieve his license and his license and registration in the car, and then at that particular point they shot through the window and they executed that man while he was reaching for his license. My thing is, why was the guns even drawn to begin with? And then they probably told him to stay still, because the officer at the end said, I told him don't move, but at the same time his lady said they told him to get his license and registration. So which one do you do? Do you stay still or do you get the license or registration? Either way, to do the other one is going to cancel out the other. So even in obeying, you're disobeying. So, you know, they put the execution down on that brother, and that's something.